The belief, dear listeners, of the Supreme Being as a Trinity is something that we need to look deeply into. Because when we look at the religion of Jesus, if we look at the beliefs of the Jews during the time of Jesus before Saul became Paul, we will see that the triune God concept was a foreign concept to the prophet Messiah Christ Jesus. It was a foreign concept to the Jews of that day, of which Jesus comes from the tribe of Israel, the children of Israel. We're talking about his ethnicity now as a Hebrew. We're not talking about his beliefs. When you historically, you look back, you will see that the issue of a triune God, that God is one and three, and all three and the one are equal and coexist, and they're co-eternal, was a foreign concept that did not exist. I brought only two of the books from my personal library that I'm recommending for you. One is written by a Muslim, Mish'al ibn Abdullah, which is What Did Jesus Really Say? And the second is written by, and as we've said before, I'll give him his props, Bart D. Ehrman, chairs the Department of Religious Studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's an authority on the history. He is considered in the United States, maybe not Canada, but in the United States, he is considered the leading authority on the New Testament. The leading authority on the early church. The leading authority on the life of Jesus. In the insert, it says, when world-class biblical scholar Bart Ehrman first began to study the text of the Bible in their original languages, he was startled to discover the multitude of mistakes and intentional alterations that have been made by earlier translators. In this book, which he is entitled Misquoting Jesus, the story behind who changed the Bible and why. He's the leading scholar in Christianity of the early church, the New Testament, and the life of Jesus. It says, in Misquoting Jesus, Ehrman tells the story behind the mistakes and changes that ancient scribes made to the New Testament and shows the great impact that they had upon the Bible we use today. He frames his account with personal reflections on how his study of the great manuscripts made him abandon his once ultra-conservative views of the Bible. Since the advent of the printing press and the accurate reproduction of text, most people have assumed that when they read the New Testament, they are reading an exact copy of Jesus' words or St. Paul's writings. And yet, for almost 1,500 years, these manuscripts were hand-copied by scribes who were deeply influenced by the cultural, theological, and political disputes of their day. Both mistakes and intentional changes abound in the surviving manuscripts, making the original words difficult to construct. And it's more difficult for the layman, because the layman, like myself, a former Pentecostal Christian, whatever the minister said, that was it. Because there was no in-depth study, because we didn't study at Harvard University. We didn't study at Oxford Theological Seminary. We were just laymen, going to church every day, every Sunday, maybe every Wednesday, every Friday, like what I used to do. And whatever the minister or my grandfather or grandmother said, that was it. In fact, we even coined it, that's the gospel truth. It says, for the first time, Ehrman reveals where and why these changes were made and how scholars go about reconstructing the original words of the New Testament as closely as possible. Ehrman makes the provocative case that many of our cherished biblical stories and widely held beliefs concerning the divinity of Jesus, the Trinity, and the divine origins of the Bible itself stem from both intentional and accidental alterations by scribes, alterations that dramatically affected all subsequent versions of the Bible. My dear listeners, we are here to tell you this evening that the religion of Christ Jesus was submission to God. That the religion of Christ Jesus is that he called those people who he was sent to tell them to worship only one God. Don't look at me, look at the one who sent me. He's one. He's one. In fact, the Jews, they have in their language, which is in the Bible, in Hebrew, echad. Echad is a word that cannot mean anything except one. And some of the people, like Sir Anthony Buzzard from England, who now resides in the United States, and he teaches at the Atlanta Bible College, he said, I cannot understand. And also we have a rabbi, also in the United States, that said similar statements, made similar statements. I cannot understand how the Christians, this is a Jew and a Christian scholar,